next meeting, but welcome. Thank you. Next, I will call the meeting to order and ask the secretary to call the roll.
Avicenna, Connolly, Curtis,
Present.
Gilbert,
Present.
Hightower,
Present.
Souter,
Present.
Simmons,
Present.
Hedrick,
Present.
Williams. Present.
Quorum is established. Pursuant to the board's bylaws, trustee Salger notified the board secretary that she is unable to attend the meeting today in person due to family matters. She is permitted to participate by video or audio conference if members physically present vote to allow her to do so. Is there a motion to allow trustee Salger to join this afternoon's board meeting by Zoom? So moved. Been moved by trustee Simmons and seconded by trustee Tedrick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Both same sign. Motion passes. Welcome, trustee Salger.
Thank you
There
all.
will be a public question and comments portion available in today's meeting. Last up to 15 minutes per 3 minutes per speaker. Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers?
No speakers today.
Okay, our next item is the presentation by SIU C, Provost Tucker. Will you please introduce our presentation speakers?
Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here today. We're going to have a presentation that includes both undergraduate and graduate students, so a little bit different flavor there. And the name of the presentation is The Lighthouse, a Journal of Undergraduate Literary Research, and you all have a copy provided to you. Our presenting students are Shelby Corlin, a senior majoring in English, Corsa Garrett, a senior double majoring in English and Classical Civilizations, Morgan Rudin, a graduate, so an alum coming back, alum from spring, well, it says spring of this year, so last year. Okay, this says spring of 25. It would have been 24, who was an English major, and she is pursuing her master's in library science at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign right now. And then what's interesting about this, beyond just his undergraduate literary journal, Ross Barnes is a graduate student. He's in his second year in the MFA program with a concentration in fiction, and he is the advisor. So I'm going to turn it over.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to showcase some of the undergraduate research that's being done in the English department. As Provost Tucker said, I'm Ross. I'm in the MFA fiction program, and I served as the managing editor and editorial advisor to the students in the journal here. And the project was conceived originally by the director of the School of Literature, Writing, and Digital Humanities, Dr. David Anthony, who wanted us to have a professional development opportunity for the undergraduate students here. And so this was going to allow them to take the research that they're doing in the classroom and to further refine it to meet the standards for academic publication so that they can go through the process of peer review, more heavily scrutinized editing, and so that they can get used to engaging in an editorial process and then doing the things that are expected in an academic journal, like incorporating these criticisms and then doing things like adding contributors' notes to them. The title of the journal was presented by Dr. Ann Chandler. The Lighthouse refers to the Virginia Woolf novel from 1927, The Lighthouse, one of my favorites. And you can see the illustrator was able to incorporate a lot of imagery related to this here. I will say, because I don't want to filibuster this, I want to turn this over to the undergrads here. I will say that the journal having an actual physical print copy has been a real boon, being used as a recruitment tool. When you have prospective students coming to visit the school, when they have like the booth set up in the student center, the undergraduate advisor has been able to show this as an example of something the students can do while they're here. So it's been really helpful there. The last thing I want to mention is the journal is produced on the SIU campus from the Office of Printing and Duplicating, which is a real luxury to have. printing and duplicating. Of course, they do like your posters and your bookmarks and everything here, but they also have a facility that's capable of doing a print journal. They did it efficiently. They're super friendly over there. And then they did it at a fraction of a cost that another publisher would do. It's about 1/4 the cost to produce as if it was done offsite. So I think everybody involved did an amazing job in bringing this project to life here. So thank you. I'm going to turn that over to the undergrads.
My name is Shelby, and I'm a senior here at SIU, majoring in English with minors in women, gender, sexuality studies, social justice, political science, and American Sign Language. The paper I submitted for this journal was for a special topics English 393 course on vampire media. And the paper basically analyzes vampire media from 1819 through 2019, looking at how this evolution reflects shifting societal views towards sexuality, both in terms of queer identity as well as sexuality more broadly. So early depictions have a lot of underlying themes and subtexts that highlight societal anxieties and fears towards sexual desire and same-sex relationships. But as the vampire genre has progressed, a lot of adaptations in how vampires are portrayed, so showing more insight into their characters, has allowed readers to get more insight and gain more empathy towards the characters. Through this, the portrayals of sexuality and queerness become less harsh as once demonized behaviors become more accepted in both literature and media as well as society more broadly. So today, many pieces of vampire media farther normalize queerness by direct representation of queer vampires, and the trends in these depictions reveals the patterns of cultural beliefs as they have developed into progressively more positive portrayals and interpretations of queerness and sexuality. So the essay went through several phases of editing with my professor based on midterm and final assignment feedback. But once it was accepted into the Lighthouse publication, there was a process of altering some phrasing and word choices to increase the clarity and improve the make it adhere to the patterns of traditionally published work. And so since naturally a lot of the essays I write are for coursework, this project was a great foray into kind of looking at how published academic writing is different from published professional writing is different from like classwork academic writing, and how the distinctions there highlight how like different audiences have different purposes and how you write different things like that. And even if those differences are very subtle, this sort of project has really highlighted how to adapt writing to better fit the distinct purpose that it's serving. And so it also was great for getting some insight into other aspects of the publishing process that I don't have any experience with, such as learning how to formulate contributors notes and other aspects like that. So I'm graduating this semester and moving on to a graduate program in women, gender, sexuality studies at the University in New Jersey. And this experience has been a big help in preparing for that next academic step. And all in all, the process of publishing in the Lighthouse has been a great adventure, and I'm very glad to have had the opportunity to be a part of it. And I think we're just going to talk next.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What kind of research do you do for this?
So for this class, we read a series of different works. So I think we had between around 10 different vampire pieces we read. And then I just found some outside sources talking about how society has been portraying sexuality at different time frames, and then kind of creating parallels between that and the works and the subtext that exist in the text we're reading for class.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Portia Garrett. I'm also a senior. I'm double majoring in English and classical civilizations and then minoring in art history. And the essay that I have in this publication is a reconsideration of civility in the roundhouse. My paper basically focuses on the ambiguity between civilization and the untamed, that's given a lot of form through the existence of animals and the roles that they play in the book. I feel like my paper tried to sort of loftily address how like the stereotype of like the savage Indian wasn't necessarily negated in this book, but at least not directly. It wanted us to instead consider what we actually consider to be savage and what we consider to be civilized society instead. So it was kind of, I think, a bit of a lofty, like abstract goal of mine. And that's why I really loved having not just my experience in the class of getting to work on this, but also my experience of getting to work on this for like an academic publication. And when I found out that the Lighthouse was going to be a thing, I was absolutely thrilled about it because I'm the editor-in-chief of Grassroots Literary and Arts magazine. So that's more of a creative publication. We publish like photography, paintings, poetry, and a lot of fiction work. And I love doing that. It's something that's more of like a side thing for me. As someone that wants to go into English literature and eventually become a professor, it made me happy that I had a chance with the Lighthouse to actually publish some of my coursework and polish that up so that that didn't just get lost in my Google Docs, and that would actually be seen and evaluated and given merit. Whereas where I write things like poems or short stories, that's kind of a more subjective thing to be published. So I like that this was a like more critical way to get that experience. So yeah, I think it's really great that the Lighthouse got an academic perspective for publication rather than just the creative works. And also I think this publication just gave me a lot more confidence in general, because as the editor-in-chief, I do a lot of the behind-the-scenes work for Grassroots. And this one was one where I actually got to be published and have my work given merit and critical feedback. And I feel like it gave me a lot more passion to pursue my actual academic career rather than my sort of more fun project of Grassroots. Not that this wasn't fun. And that's my spiel.
Everyone. So as previously introduced, my name is Morgan Rudin. I'm an alum now, actually, which is strange to say, of SIU Carbondale as of spring of 2024. And I'm currently pursuing my master's in library and information science at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And I've been really enjoying that entire process. So my essay is entitled Strangers on a Train, Ego and In Fear and Steam. And this was written for English 307, which was a class surveying basically the whole of sort of the filmography of Alfred Hitchcock and some of the greater themes present in his work, both from a film standpoint and from the more literary thematic references that he was making. This one is just about one of his most iconic pieces, Strangers on a Train, and it's basically detailing how societal deviance is treated and manifests through themes like carnival and subtextual homosexuality and murder, because of course there's going to be murder in a Hitchcock film. So I chose this piece specifically because number one, it was a very comfortable length that I could already work off of, and I'll kind of get back into the schematics of working on that through the editing later. And then also I liked it because for this class it was a single subject, so I feel like I could achieve the depth of exploring the themes that I wanted to without being bogged down by sort of multiple sources that can get a little chaotic to handle sometimes in other papers that I have written for various courses or even this course as well. And for the editing process, whenever I was very fortunate enough to be asked to, present a piece and eventually be published in this journal, it was a really wonderful way to sort of explore further that depth and that creativity. And I had never really gone through an editorial process such as this before, and it was a really delightful process, truly, of being able to scrutinize, okay, this specific theme, how can you expand on that? What other source can you present for this as well? And overall, it was just a very, very interesting process, and it actually very much helped me prepare for grad school, since a lot of the writings I do are sort of that single subject depth creative work, that I was not previously used to in my undergraduate courses. So overall, it's just been a really wonderful and honorary process to be a part of, and I'm very glad that myself and my peers here were able to be a part of this. So I believe that concludes our presentation. So I would like to open the floor for any questions that anyone have. And again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Where did the name Lighthouse come from?
The Virginia Woolf novel. the Lighthouse.
And is this the first? Is there gonna be another volume two, or?
This is the inaugural issue. David Anthony, the director of the School of Literature, Writing, and Digital Humanities, asked us to start this last spring. We worked on it over the summer. And we anticipate doing one issue per year. So we've already sent out a call for papers this semester. We anticipate students, like the final papers they write for their upper division lit classes, they'll submit their essays here. We'll edit them over the summer and then publish another copy in the fall. So.
Any other questions? I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's really fascinating. I don't think I would be able to take your class if I would have done well in it. But anyway, it's, you know, how much research goes into these papers? These articles?
I think that's subjective to each paper. I don't know if we can safely say that there is an average that we can all agree on, but
About a semester.
yeah, that's a semester's worth approximately.
I've had papers where I've read like 15 articles for them, and I've had papers where I read like 3. So it really changes a lot.
And how'd you come up with these? You assign these topics, or is this topics that you just were interested in and decided to write them?
The essays for all of us were originally things we were assigned in class, I believe, and then we chose them ourselves to say, this is the one that we want to submit to this process.
A lot of them are like, our assignments aren't specific to like, this is your topic. It's just like, pick a topic that relates to this class theme. And so like, you just like pick anything in that realm that you're interested in, and your professor like usually approves your topic.
But Shelby, you have a page and a half of works cited, which seems like a lot.
I do, yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit about?
Yeah, so the first draft I wrote of it was for the midterm, and the midterm was just based on the text read and watched for class. And so it was kind of like an analysis of how those texts and the subtext that exist in them. But the final was to add like academic and other resources into it to apply like specific themes. And so that was where I kind of pulled in the aspect of how historical sexuality was treated, and also just how other scholars are talking about these works as well, and the interpretations they had of their media and how it was reflected in sexuality.
I just want to say, great job. And do you think this journal will help attract more students like you? The SIU Carbondale?
I would hope so.
Something that really pops out. And I don't know if there are other journals like this, or is this pretty unique just to us, or?
It's more common for an institution to have a journal of creative work, like Portia works on the Grassroots Journal. It's pretty unique to have an undergraduate journal of literary research, I would say.
I think it really feels like a hole that was needed, because a lot of people that come to Grassroots, again, it's the like literary and arts one, so we have a lot of creative work. And then we'll also have people come up to us sometimes and say, oh, do you take like research papers or things like that? And I have to go, sorry, not really. Like, we can, but it's going to be sandwiched between a bunch of poems and then short stories and photos. So it's not necessarily that Grassroots wouldn't publish it. It's just that it's a bit oddly fitting. So I think the Lighthouse is something that's really great for a lot of people that just don't write like fictional things, but still are really passionate about what they are writing.
And it also makes like the rest of the academic process, should someone be considering grad school, considering, you know, entering those academic, you know, environments and that sort of thing, it just makes the entire process feel more accessible. It feels to that incoming freshman or even the senior that's leaving like, hey, maybe I can actually do something like this. Maybe I am capable of this.
I think in a more tangible way too, like grad school applications, a lot of times your CV will ask for publications. And if you're in a liberal arts field, a lot of times you wouldn't have published in an undergraduate like academic writing. And so this kind of like is an option to put that onto a resume or a CV and stuff like that.
How unique is this program in comparison with maybe other institutions, or whose brainchild was this? I mean, this is wonderful.
Yeah, it was conceived by Dr. David Anthony, the director of the School of Literature, Writing, and Digital Humanities. He wanted it as professional development, venue and publication. It was ambitious for him to think about this, and conceive of it, because it's unique to have a journal of just, academic writing for undergrads, but it's been fantastic for all the students. I mean, in addition to these three here, we had 7 other students who published papers there. And they all had very unique experiences with it. They all had really unique topics, but I know everybody benefited in a different way from it. And honestly, the thing I'm most proud of is that our director said, he just had this idea, I want to do a journal. And he told us, hey, go do a journal. And now you're holding it in your hands. And it kind of looks like, and this is a testament to how good of a job like the illustrator did and the division of printing and duplicating. It was just sprung up as this idea, and it kind of looks like it always existed. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask a little bit about the editorial process and like who reviews it, how many rounds do you go through, kind of what was that experience like?
Well, it already helps that we are not like, it already helps that we already had classes that we were sort of submitting almost like a first round of peer review to it, because I know that I submitted a paper that I already had gotten a really good grade on. So that felt like first that was my experience. So for me, it was more just a continuation of it was very intimate actually. It very much for me at least felt like just continuing professorship feedback, as though I was like almost still in a class even. I don't know what your guys' experience is.
I think, at least I know for my paper, as is the case with, I think, a lot of the papers that I write for class, I get feedback on them and it's like, oh, here's this good grade, but also here's all these things that you could have done to improve it. But I don't really have any need, I suppose, to improve it because it's written for this one class, this one topic, that's a one-off. And so this was something where I actually got to go back and say, actually, I loved that feedback and I would like to really like delve into that. So it is like, yeah, without this publication, there is no like second round of editing and things like that.
Yeah, that's critical. I hadn't thought about that, but that makes a big, big difference. And the other question I was gonna ask, since it's mostly coming from faculty feedback, how much do you rely on each other and reviewing drafts? And just, that's kind of like a personal question, do you really rely on each other and learn from each other in that way?
I personally did. It was very one-on-one in the editorial process. I mean, every once in a while you could like text someone like, oh my God, this draft is killing me. But I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. But like other than that, it's not so much like laterally collaborative as it is just like longitudinally like one-on-one.
Yeah, it is mostly like one-on-one professor, but like I was studying abroad when I like got accepted or when I was about to submit this essay. And so I like was adding my professor's feedback in and I was like talking to some of my friends. I was like, does this like sound good? Like editor, I think this meets the requirements for this. I think it is like some of that collaborative talking, but only really if you see that out with that.
And I'm not sure how much, at least I think every now and then I talk about my papers with my friends, but it's often everyone's busy off doing their own thing. So this was one where I kind of got to pitch, hey, here's my thesis for this paper versus this paper. Which one do you think sounds the most interesting to publish? And then not necessarily so involved in the editing process, but once we got the publication, I finally got to read some of my other friends' like published works. Because I think we often go, yeah, this is what I'm writing about, because it's just, we have to get it over with. But getting to see what everyone in my classes around me or in classes that I didn't get to take were writing about, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I wish I got to read more of my peers' works because it's really fascinating. And some of it I was like, how did they even get that from what I read? I took that class and never thought of that.
Okay, go ahead.
So Morgan, you're in grad school now.
Yes.
And we understand library science is
Yes.
part of your program. Shelby, you're just getting ready to go to grad school. Portia, if you look 2 or 3 years out, where do each of you see your career path? Not that far ahead.
I'm hoping to work in political activism or like community with a mutual aid organization. So my program is more practicum based than it is writing based, but I think writing is still a pretty big role of what I want to do. And so a lot of those organizations require like written communication, like written advertising, announcements, informationals. And so that kind of like writing based activism is something I'm really interested in.
My ultimate goal is to be an academic librarian. I am very comfortable in a university setting, and it would be, there are many avenues that I could take, but I would like to continue to be in an academic environment. With the current environment that things are going right now, I don't know how feasible that will be, but I have decided to just keep trying anyway.
Yes. And then since I'm graduating this May, I'm planning on taking a year off and then working full time. And then I'd like to go back and get my master's and then eventually go get my PhD because my ultimate goal is to be an English professor.
We'll come back to SIU then.
I'll try if you'll have me.
We will. We will. Anything else? Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russ. And I want the record to show that trustee Ann and trustee Lowell are here.
I want the record to show that all the students in Martin's Market.
You need a staple. There was a whole How are you?
Okay, we're gonna close the meeting, go into executive session. I move to close the meeting to the public for the purpose of considering pending, probable, or imminent court proceedings against and on behalf of the board, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, and review of executive session minutes. The relevant sections of the Open Meetings Act, statutes that allow for closed section are 5 ILCS 120/2, paren C, paren 1, paren 11, paren 21. Do I have a second to the motion? And seconded by our newest trustee. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Addisina.